There was a time when humanity believed the stars welcomed all who dared to dream. We reached beyond our small blue world with open hearts and eager hands, ready to join the cosmic community we imagined awaited us. We were wrong. The galaxy had no place for dreamers, only for those who knew their place in the ancient order. Captain Helena Drake stood at the viewport of the colony, transport vessel Prometheus, watching the last glimpse of known space fade into the absolute darkness ahead. Behind her, 3,000 souls slept in cryogenic suspension, unaware that they were not pioneers but prisoners. The Galactic Consortium had made their verdict clear. Humanity was too aggressive, too emotional, too unpredictable to remain among civilized species. The vote had been unanimous. Exile was the merciful option, they said. Better than extermination. Helena's reflection stared back at her from the reinforced glass. At 32, she had been one of Earth's most decorated deep space navigators. Now she was a shepherd leading her flock into oblivion. The consortium had stripped their ships of advanced navigation systems, leaving only basic propulsion and life support. No weapons. No communication arrays. No way home. "Captain, we're approaching the boundary of the exclusion zone," said Lieutenant Tobias Grant from the helm. His voice carried the weight of a man who understood they were crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. "Once we pass through, our emergency beacon will be permanently disabled." Helena turned from the viewport, her jaw set with determination that belied the fear gnawing at her chest. "Then we go forward, Lieutenant. There's nothing behind us but closed doors and forgotten promises." The Prometheus shuddered as it crossed into uncharted space. Around them, 4 other colony ships made the same journey, each carrying the last fragments of human civilization. The consortium had been thorough in their cruelty. They had taken families and scattered them across vessels, ensuring no single ship carried enough genetic diversity or specialized knowledge to rebuild quickly. It was exile designed to become extinction through slow suffocation. 3 weeks into their journey, Helena gathered the senior staff in the cramped command center. Engineer First Class Devon Park had been running calculations, his weathered face growing more troubled with each passing day. Dr. Sienna Okafor, the chief medical officer, sat with her arms crossed, her dark eyes reflecting the same grim reality they all faced. "The truth is simple," Devon began, his voice rough from years of breathing recycled air in industrial facilities. "Our supplies will last maybe 5 years if we stretch them. The consortium gave us enough to die slowly rather than quickly. That's their mercy. What about the other ships?" asked Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka, her fingers nervously adjusting her headset. "Have we established contact?" Helena shook her head. "The Orpheus and the Atlas are within range. The Icarus and the Destiny are too far ahead. Whatever happens, we face it separately. So we're supposed to just drift until we run out of food and air." Tobias's voice cracked with barely contained rage. "The consortium sends us to die, and we accept it?" "No," Helena said firmly, standing to face her crew. "We survive. The consortium made a mistake. They thought our aggression and unpredictability were weaknesses. They're about to learn those traits are precisely what will keep us alive when civilized species would surrender." Sienna leaned forward, her medical mind already working through possibilities. "We'll need to adapt faster than any species has before. Find resources, modify our biology if necessary. Become something new. Something the galaxy has never seen," Devon added, a fierce light kindling in his eyes. Over the following months, the Prometheus discovered a rogue planetary system drifting through the void. The planets were harsh, radiation-soaked death worlds by consortium standards. But humanity had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them with diseases, predators, and natural disasters. They knew how to thrive in hostile environments. Helena led the first landing party to the largest planet, which they named Crucible. The air was thin but breathable with filtration masks. The radiation required them to spend most time underground. The native microbes were deadly until Sienna's team developed resistance treatments. Every day brought new challenges, new dangers that would have sent consortium species fleeing back to their comfortable worlds. But humans didn't flee. They dug deeper. They built stronger. They adapted. 5 years became 10. 10 became 50. The original exiles aged and died, but their children were born in the crucible of survival. They were taller, more resilient, their bodies modified by Sienna's genetic treatments to thrive in high radiation. They knew nothing of Earth's blue skies or the consortium's gleaming stations. They knew only that survival required strength, and strength came from never accepting defeat. Helena Drake died at 93, surrounded by the third generation of Crucible's children. Her last words were recorded and became the founding principle of what would emerge. They tried to make us disappear. Instead, they created something that will never be forgotten. By the time a century had passed, the 5 scattered colony ships had established contact and begun coordinating. They had found other rogue systems, other death worlds, and claimed them all. Where the consortium saw uninhabitable waste, humanity saw opportunity. They built shipyards and asteroid fields, mining operations in the hearts of dying stars, and training facilities where children learned to fight before they learned to read. The exile had forged something new, something dangerous, something unstoppable. And in the darkness between stars, humanity began building the fleet that would return to remind the galaxy of the greatest mistake it had ever made. 200 years after the exile, the name Helena Drake had become legend. Her descendants carried her fire in their blood, and none burned brighter than Commander Nikolai Reeves. At 28, he commanded the warship Retribution, a vessel that would have terrified the engineers of old Earth. It was not built for exploration or diplomacy. It existed for a single purpose, to prove that humanity could not be erased. Nikolai stood in the training bay, watching the latest batch of recruits run combat drills. These were not the soft civilians the consortium had exiled. These were the children of the void, raised in artificial gravity that could be adjusted from crushing weight to near weightlessness at a moment's notice. They trained in vacuum, in fire, in conditions that would kill most galactic species before the exercise began. Again, barked instructor Vera Kozlov, a woman whose scars told stories of survival that most species could not imagine. Your enemy will not give you breaks. Your enemy will not care if you are tired. Move faster or die trying. The recruits responded with synchronized precision, their movements efficient and brutal. This was the third generation born in exile, and they had never known peace. Peace was a luxury for species protected by the consortium. Humanity had been stripped of that protection and learned to protect itself. "Commander Reeves," called a voice from the doorway. It was Lieutenant Rashid Kimothy, the Retribution's intelligence officer. His expression carried urgency. "Admiral wants you on the bridge. We have intercepted something." Nikolai followed Rashid through the corridors of the Retribution. The ship hummed with barely contained power, its reactors pushing technology beyond what the consortium believed possible. Humanity had spent 2 centuries reverse engineering every scrap of abandoned technology they found drifting in the void, then improving it with the desperate innovation of people who had no choice but to succeed. On the bridge, Admiral Patricia Wu stood before a holographic display. Her silver hair pulled back severely from a face that had seen 60 years of struggle. She had been born on Crucible, raised in the underground cities where radiation storms forced everyone to become comfortable with danger. "Commander, we have detected a consortium patrol fleet," Patricia said without preamble. 17 ships, standard defense configuration. They are investigating anomalous energy signatures in Sector 773. Nikolai studied the display. Sector 773 was dangerously close to the Forge, humanity's largest shipyard hidden in an asteroid field. They are getting bolder. 3 months ago, they were at least 20 light years from our territory. The consortium has forgotten us, said Chief Tactical Officer James Okonkwo, his massive frame looming over his console. They think we died centuries ago. This patrol is probably investigating ghost signals, unaware of what they are about to find. Patricia's eyes gleamed with something between satisfaction and rage. Then we remind them, Nikolai, take the retribution and intercept. I want prisoners. I want their data. Most importantly, I want them to carry a message back to the consortium that humanity remembers. The retribution dropped out of hyperspace, a ghost at the edge of the patrol fleet's sensor range. Commander Nikolai Reeves watched the tactical display as the consortium ships moved in their elegant, ceremonial formations. They were beautiful, gleaming with polished metal and shields that shimmered like soap bubbles. They were built by species that valued aesthetics over function, tradition over innovation. They haven't detected us, reported Sensor Officer Kenji Sato. Their scanning tech is decades behind ours. Nikolai allowed himself a grim smile. The consortium had stagnated while humanity evolved. They'd grown comfortable in their superiority, never imagining that the species they exiled would one day surpass them. Arm all weapons. Prepare boarding teams. Target their communications ship first. I want them blind before they even know we exist. The retribution struck like a predator from the depths. Railguns fired hypervelocity projectiles that tore through the communications ship's shields as if they were paper. The elegant vessel came apart in a silent, brilliant cascade of explosions, its crew never understanding what hit them. The remaining 16 ships scrambled to respond, but they moved with the hesitation of those who had forgotten how to fight. Humanity had never forgotten. For them, war was breathing. Survival was instinct. Multiple targeting locks on our position, Kenji announced calmly. They're attempting to coordinate fire. Evasive pattern, Sigma, Nikolai ordered. Show them the difference between a ceremonial fleet and ships built for killing. A retribution moved with impossible grace for its size, dancing between incoming fire that would have obliterated the old colony transports. Every maneuver was calculated, designed to position them for maximum damage. Within minutes, 4 more consortium ships were crippled, their crews evacuating in a panic. Incoming transmission, said Communications Officer Raina Foster. The fleet commander is requesting terms of surrender. Nikolai considered it. The easy choice was annihilation. 2 centuries of rage demanded blood for the exile, for the families separated, for the people who died believing they had been abandoned. But Admiral Wu wanted prisoners. She wanted intelligence. Open a channel, he said. When Raina nodded, Nikolai spoke with the cold authority of someone who had never doubted his purpose. I am Commander Nikolai Reeves of the Terran Dominion. You are trespassing in our territory. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with immediate destruction. There was a long pause. Then a voice responded, trembling with confusion and fear. Terran Dominion? That's impossible. The humans were exiled 200 years ago. They couldn't have survived. We did more than survive, Nikolai replied. We thrived. Now you have a choice. Surrender and live as proof that humanity has returned, or die as a warning to those who thought we could be forgotten. The consortium ships powered down. As boarding teams secured the prisoners, Nikolai walked through the captured vessels. He saw the luxury, the wasted space devoted to comfort rather than function. These ships were built by species that had never truly struggled. They had ruled the galaxy for so long, they had forgotten the fundamental truth that humanity learned in the void. The strong survive, the weak make excuses. Admiral Wu's voice crackled through his communicator. Excellent work, Commander. Bring the prisoners to the Forge. It's time we learned everything the consortium knows about their defenses. their politics, and their fears. Understood, Admiral. What happens after we extract the intelligence? There was a pause. Then the Admiral's voice carried the weight of 2 centuries of exile. Then we go home. And we show the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy humanity. The captured consortium. Officers stood in the interrogation chamber aboard the Forge, their elegant uniforms now stained and torn. They had been taught that humanity was extinct, a cautionary tale about a species too violent for civilized space. Now they faced the truth, and it terrified them. Dr. Amara Chun, Chief of Intelligence, circled the lead prisoner, a Valerian named Orcs. She was a small woman, but her presence filled the room like a storm waiting to break. Her ancestors had been among the exiles. "Tell me about the Consortium Council," she said quietly. "Where do they meet? What are their security protocols?" Thel remained silent. Amara didn't raise her voice or threaten him. Instead, she pulled up a holographic display showing the colony transport Prometheus crossing into the exclusion zone 2 centuries ago. "My great-grandmother was on that ship," Amara said softly. "She was a teacher. She believed the galaxy was a place where different species could build something beautiful together. Your people crushed that dream because we didn't fit your perfect vision of civilization." She zoomed in on the faces of the exiles, the children crying, the families torn apart. "They sent us to die slowly. They called it mercy. We called it murder." Thel's resolve began to crack. "We were afraid. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable. The Council believed exile was safer than integration." "Safer for whom?" Amara asked. "You condemned 3 million people because you were afraid. Now, your fear has created exactly what you hoped to prevent. We are no longer the peaceful explorers who asked permission to join your community. We are the storm you created by throwing us into darkness." Over the following weeks, the prisoners provided everything the Dominion needed: defense networks, political structures, trade routes, and most importantly, the location of their capital world, Celestria Prime. The information flowed not from torture, but from something far more powerful: guilt and the recognition that humanity had every right to seek justice. Captain Soren Blackwood stood with 50 other ship commanders in the war room. Admiral Wu addressed them, her voice carrying the weight of generations. "For 200 years, we have built in secret. We have survived conditions that would destroy any other species. We have become stronger, smarter, and more unified than the Consortium ever imagined. Now we return not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding recognition." She activated a massive holographic display showing Celestria Prime. It gleamed like a jewel in space, protected by defense stations that had never faced a real threat. "This is not a mission of genocide," Patricia continued. "We are not the monsters they feared we would become. But we will show them consequences. We will show them that exile was not mercy, but the greatest strategic mistake in galactic history. We will show them that humanity cannot be erased." The fleet assembled in the darkness. Over 300 warships, each a masterpiece of desperate innovation. They weren't beautiful like Consortium vessels. They were scarred, angular, built from salvaged materials and necessity. But they worked with a brutal efficiency that elegant design could never match. Nikolai stood on the bridge of the Retribution as the fleet prepared to jump. He thought of the original exiles, of the children born in underground cities, growing up knowing they had been abandoned. "Send the message to all ships," he said. "Today we go home. Not as conquerors, but as survivors, claiming what should have been ours from the beginning. The galaxy tried to erase us. We will show them that humanity does not disappear. We adapt. We overcome. We endure." The fleet jumped as one, tearing through hyperspace toward Celestria Prime. When they emerged, the Consortium defense forces scrambled in panic. Their sensors had never detected such a massive fleet appearing without warning. Admiral Wu opened a broadcast to every Consortium world. Her face appeared on billions of screens. I am Admiral Patricia Wu of the Terran Dominion. 200 years ago, you exiled humanity because you feared what we might become. You were right to fear us, but wrong to believe exile would solve your problem. We survived your judgment. We thrived in conditions you deemed uninhabitable. We built a civilization from nothing while you grew comfortable. Now we return to remind you of a simple truth you forgot. She paused, letting her words sink in. You cannot kill hope. You cannot destroy the human spirit. You can only make it stronger. We do not come seeking revenge. We come demanding recognition. We come claiming our place among the stars. We are humanity. We were exiled, but never broken. We were forgotten, but never gone. And we will never disappear. The consortium fleet moved to engage, but their hearts weren't in it. They faced an enemy forged in the crucible of survival, while they had spent centuries in comfortable decline. The battle was brief and decisive. Humanity didn't obliterate their opponents. They disabled ships, forced surrenders, and proved beyond doubt that the balance of power had shifted forever. As consortium representatives approached to negotiate, Nikolai watched the sunrise over Celestria Prime. "What do you think will happen now?" asked his first officer. Nikolai smiled, thinking of all the children who would now see worlds beyond the harsh planets of their birth. "We build something new. A galaxy where humanity stands as equals, where our strength is respected, and where no species will ever again have the power to cast another into darkness. And if they try, then we remind them again, as many times as necessary, humanity endures. That is not a threat. It's a promise." The exile had ended. The forgotten had returned. And the galaxy would never, ever underestimate humanity again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next one. See you in the comments.